Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I recently got the new Wacom Mobile Studio Pro and wanted to give you a small review about it. So this is a 15.6 inches model and it's got an i7 processor with 16 gigs of RAM. So it's the most powerful that they make. It also comes with an NVIDIA Quattro card. To give you a quick summary, I love it. It's the best, closest to pen and paper drawing experience that I've had, and I've been drawing digitally for over 13 years. And you know, I think that if you want a studio that you move from table to table, this is the best on the market. Now let's dive in, and I'll first talk about the ergonomics. This device only comes with USB-C ports. That's what you also use for charging. The charging cable and adapter are not that big. They're roughly, you know, the size of an iPhone. So that's good for travel. And again, it's USB-C only. The tablet is pretty heavy. You can see the slats right here. That's where the fan comes from. So when you hold it, you can feel it blowing in your hand very gently. Doesn't bother me at all. It's also surprisingly quiet, considering it's a full-blown big laptop in there. I really don't notice much sound. There's 8 buttons over here and 4 more buttons that you could press on each side of this dial. If you turn on your finger on the dial, you can use it to slide up and down like such. And the middle serves as a Windows key. And another neat thing, this is also a fingerprint scanner, so you can log in your computer this way. Finally, they improved the power button, so you don't accidentally turn off your device anymore. It's a slide, so that's great. And they also have a micro SD card, or a regular SD card, and that's awesome for transferring files around. Neat thing is when you put one in, it sits flush and you can carry your device with the card in it. So that's how it looks and feels. For drawing in your lap, it is not nearly as good as an iPad Pro. iPad Pro is a lot smaller and lighter, while it still has roughly the same, if not bigger, vertical screen dimension. So when it is pressed against you in your lap, you end up, this format just works better. You know, you don't end up needing this extra width and you benefit from the extra height. And of course, the biggest difference, this never gets hot. It's way, way lighter, and you can hold it with one hand and draw on it like this. Whereas on the Mobile Studio Pro, I found that I had trouble doing that. I really, within 30 minutes of just drawing on a couch or having it in my lap, I wanted to move on a table. So I really think that this excels as a studio that you move from table to table to. Now let's talk about the screen. This screen is fantastic. It's amazing. It's one of the best screens for drawing with a pen you can buy. It's roughly the same resolution as the iPad. So it's very sharp. It's very color accurate. It also, and this is the biggest advantage in my opinion, has by far the best screen surface. So whereas the iPad is glass and drawing on it is very glidey, this screen is actually soft, and drawing on it feels, you know, like drawing on a pad of paper. When you press hard on it, it actually ripples, which looks a little funny, but that little bit of give makes it that much more realistic. In fact, today when I was drawing on it, something funny happened. I erased a line and I leaned in, and without thinking about it, I tried to glue the eraser bits. So I blew on the screen, and that really surprised me. I stopped and I thought about it because, you know, I've been drawing on tablets and other screens for over 13 years, and that has never happened. So that's probably the biggest compliment I can give you, that, you know, I mean, that I can give this device, is that it fooled my brain for a moment there. This pen is another reason for why it's so great to draw on. It's light, It's smaller than, I mean, it's not as tall as the iPad pencil, but they're actually, I almost feel like this one's slightly heavier. It's very light. You know, it's got buttons like all the other Wacom pens, but it's not like the other Wacom pens entirely. They've actually made it more pressure sensitive, and they changed the nibs, so the nibs are thinner and longer. Now, the nibs themselves I'm not crazy about because they kind of wobble a little bit when they're inserted into the pen. I don't remember them wobbling as much in the past, but it still fooled my brain into that I was drawing with a real pen and a real piece of paper, so the end result speaks for itself. Now, as far as power and battery of this device, I think, you know, everybody probably who's looking at this review knows this is a full-blown computer. That's why they're so expensive. It can run Photoshop, and it runs it really, really well. So this is zooming in on a 7,000 pixel image, 7,000 pixels wide, almost 8,000, and it's fast. There is very little lag when drawing with simple brushes. More complicated brushes, you know, they lag a little more, but still they're very quick. I did notice that it performs slightly better when it's plugged in, but you know, that's up to your power settings. I played with mine a little, and I find that by default, I find that performance is great, both plugged in and not plugged in. I get about 5 hours of battery life out of it, probably maybe 4. If I'm drawing constantly, then definitely 4 and maybe even less. But that doesn't really bother me because the ergonomics of this device prohibit it from being comfortable to draw on a couch anyways. So that's probably the biggest observation, is it works the best on a table. So you'll be moving from one to the other, just bring the charger with you. Now I'll talk briefly about the drivers. So the drivers on this device can be a major hassle for some people. When it first came out of the box, it was perfect, no issues whatsoever. The driver panel looks like this, and they recommended me that I install the latest update. When I did, touch stopped working quite as well. It started being more finicky. Then I upgraded recently to the latest. Everything is working great now. So, you know, a lot of people online are complaining about driver issues, and that's just something to be aware of, that it's not going to be something you just forget about unless you do not upgrade it. Because when it came out of the box, it worked flawlessly. So if you get it, and if you're not a tech-savvy person, if it works great for you, maybe don't touch it. Another thing about the drivers is, so this has 8 buttons like this, right? But if you want more, you can set up virtual buttons that you can then press, and that's awesome. You can customize them however you want. You can have multiple of these menus and toggle them on and off. You can even put a radial menu, and these can fan out into more menus. So all of this combines to that if you were to take your time with the setup, you probably would not need a keyboard anymore. I have a Bluetooth keyboard, it works great, but if you wanted to avoid it, you could. Now, last, I want to talk about the accessories. So, it comes with this little tube with just 3 nibs. There's the spares, and that's a big issue because there's only 3. There's actually room for 3 more, and they didn't bother putting them in. It's an issue because they still don't sell the extra nibs. So until Wacom starts selling them online, I fully understand why some people are so upset. I haven't worn my nibs out, but if I did, like some of the others, I would, not be happy about that. They also have not released a stand yet. It's been almost 6 months, and where's the stand, Wacom? We have this. And this works fine for me. That's just a cheap 3M stand I bought. There's a million other options. But it would be nice to have an official portable one, and there isn't one yet. But overall, it's a fantastic device. I had it crash on me 3 times. It kind of just powered off when it was getting warm. It usually gets warm after a few hours of drawing, and a few times it just shut off. I looked online and I found a Reddit post that talks about how Wacom apparently acknowledges this, and an early batch of i7 Quattro equipped devices, which is one of these, have that problem. So I may send one in, but it doesn't sound like this affects everybody. I just thought it was worth mentioning. But aside from that, this has been an awesome experience for me. The screen has been surprisingly comfortable to work on. I am used to working at a 27-inch screen at home, at work. 9 to 5, I've spent years working on the 27-inch screen. Going down to a 16 inches was really easy. A lot harder for me was just going down to this form factor where, I have to work with an unusual stand and I have to lean in and hunch more. So my eye strain is non-existent. My neck strain has increased somewhat compared to the bigger screen. But because of the resolution, I can see more of my image than I can on the 27 QHD. And, the menus scaled really well in Photoshop, and they're small, but the pen is so accurate that, I can touch every button, no problem. Also, the parallax is awesome. So the pen is so much closer to the screen on this device that it's great to draw on. So I really like it. I hope this was helpful.